feel very strongly. And so I spent the time learning and studying to where I was confident to one day on my birthday, I stood alone in my home after having had a bath, and I gave my shahada. And I said to myself, I am a Muslim. Alhamdulillah. So every day I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you were considering becoming a Muslim and studying about Islam, did your wife notice a change in you, that you were becoming quite serious about learning about Islam?
Yes, with some concern, I'd have to say. I would have lots of books around. I would have the Quran. I would have other books on Islam that I was reading, and she could see that every day when I was in my reading chair, that's what I was reading, and everything she saw on the internet, it was about Islam. So she said, "Oh, you are really, being a fanatic about this. You're taking yourself in a direction away from me." And she became concerned that it would be threatening our relationship, that she wouldn't know who I was anymore, and these kinds of fears. And so that is continued to be an area of some difficulty that she is growing to understand, and that the acceptance of me now as a Muslim is actually improved a lot, to where she is willing to understand that I have this right to have my religion, and that it doesn't change my love for her, it doesn't change our relationship, should not threaten it.
And how about the rest of your family? Have you been able to share the fact with them that you're Muslim?
My children had no problem, and I was a little surprised. My daughter is very academic and studied a lot of philosophy and so forth, and she likes to find rationality in things and try to answer questions that way. And she was leaning towards being a Catholic in her own life. And my son is one who was just very open to people finding their own way. So both of my kids had no trouble. And I pray in front of them. They know at certain times, don't have plan things because Dad has his prayers. But outside of that, we have a family that, from my wife's side, Catholic going back generations, and for my wife to accept Islam, even if she had inclinations to join me, if we were just alone together on an island, I think she would. But she cannot face her parents. She could not face her grandmother and say to herself, you are following the wrong path. And she's not willing to do that yet. And that is up to Allah.
Inshallah, Allah will guide her to Islam.
Yes,
because it just takes time, and we hear these stories, inshallah, when you talk about good people. Inshallah, Allah, He has a way to.
And patience.
And patience,
the Muslims are patient, and I am patient, and the advice I've received from my brothers is like little layers of sand that fall to the bottom of the lake every year. It makes layers. You take a little bit of a layer each year of understanding. Maybe it happens faster, but over time, if I am a good example to my wife as a Muslim and I am treating her well and she sees what it is doing for me, inshallah, she will slowly lose these fears, and maybe if it's God's will, she will become a Muslim too.
Now you're from New London, New Hampshire, which is a little bit remote from here.
Yes.
Are there any Muslims that live in that town where you live?
I'm not aware of any. There was a grocer, an owner of a grocery store, who had married a Malaysian woman, but they have moved south to be with family in, I think, North Carolina. There is one other sort of beacon however, in New Hampshire, and that is Dartmouth College.
Mm-hmm.
And there is the Al-Nur Society of the Dartmouth students, and they have a prayer room, and they have meetings together, and they read the Quran. And they have welcomed me to come to some of their activities, even though, you know, I'm 3 times their age in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a good community to the north of here, and we are making attempts to try to get them to talk together and be part of the greater Muslim family here in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But right in the town I live in, no Muslims, no mosques.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this isolation. There's an isolation, I think, for a new Muslim who has to learn an entirely new culture, has to give up their culture,
Mm-hmm.
Has a language barrier, has the societal pressures of people against Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you are an instant minority, even though I'm the majority, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, so.
Now, the thing you mentioned about the things you have to give up to become a Muslim, were those things easy for you, and did you only start them after you became Muslim, or did you try to see if you'd be able to maintain them before you became Muslim?
I learned some of the laws about food and other matters dealing with how do you relate to women and other things, other issues of modesty, and from my readings. And before I became a Muslim, I was observing these things. I was trying to learn about them. I had stopped having any alcohol, eating pork or any other food that was haram, and it was no problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lifetime of, you know, of things, but it wasn't difficult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I have friends who are Christians or others who drink alcohol. They're not drunks or anything, but they drink alcohol, and I can be next to them and it doesn't attract me. I have no problem with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But people who know you, I mean, everybody seems to be pretty accepting, but maybe somebody comes up to you and says, Joel, you know, I know you, you're a nice guy, but tell me, why did you become a Muslim?
I would say to them, that is a very small question with a big answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried to have an answer, because that is the first thing people ask, you know, especially the people, like you say, that don't really understand. And I have to think about it. Well, no one asks anyone who is a Christian or a Jew, why are you Christian or Jew?
Mm-hmm.
How did you become Christian?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just something that is accepted?
Mm-hmm.
But if you become Muslim, now you have to have a very comprehensive answer that is logical and can be understood in 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a 10-second answer, but you don't know how God is active, how He is, you know, pointing you in different directions. You don't know when it is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And there are lots of blessings from God that you know about, and there are many, many more that you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them for me is I've always had a yearning to have a better understanding of my Creator. That is just something that is in my heart. And I've been trying to find that my whole life. And through Allah, He has called me to Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Why? I would never know. Why would I do this?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I reach out to the Quran, something I knew nothing about?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I keep reading the Quran after all this time, you know, if it was just a whim?
Mm-hmm.
So